If you have ever stood in a room full of people screaming at a television screen and felt like you were watching a ritual from another planet, this is going to explain why. Because what looks like simple indifference might actually be a completely different psychological design. It has nothing to do with intelligence, empathy, or personality. It has to do with how your brain defines meaning. On any given weekend, something strange happens. Traffic shifts. Grocery stores empty. Entire households organize their schedules around a kickoff time. For devoted fans, the stakes feel enormous. Their heart rate rises. Their palms sweat. A last-minute goal can determine their mood for the rest of the week. But if you are a non-fan, the sight of grown adults yelling at a screen over a ball can feel almost surreal. You may have wondered quietly, am I missing some basic human instinct? Have I been left out of a fundamental human experience? Here's the first important truth. You're not missing anything. You are simply wired differently. To understand why, we have to go back thousands of years. Long before modern cities and social media, survival depended on belonging to a tribe. If you were inside the group, you were protected. You shared resources, you found mates, and you survived predators. If you were cast out, your chances of survival dropped to zero. This created a biological imperative. The human brain adapted to treat group identity as a life or death matter. It evolved to release powerful bonding chemicals when we felt connected to a collective. Oxytocin strengthened loyalty and trust within the pack. Dopamine reinforced shared victories. Threats to the group felt like threats to the self. Modern sports tap directly into this ancient prehistoric system. A jersey is more than fabric. It is a symbolic tribal marking. A stadium is more than a venue. It is a modern gathering ground for a war ritual. When a fan watches their team compete, the brain can literally blur the boundary between the self and the group. When the team wins, fans do not say they won. They say we won. That single word reveals how deeply their identification runs. Their brain has hijacked a survival mechanism and applied it to a game. But here's where the path splits. Not everyone builds their identity through symbolic groups. Some people develop what psychologists describe as a more autonomous identity structure. Their sense of self is anchored internally through personal standards, direct effort, and individual experience. If you fall into this category, borrowing pride from a team may feel confusing or even slightly dishonest. You might think, I did not step on the field. I did not train for years, and I did not make the play. So why should I feel victorious? That reaction is not cold. It is consistent. Your brain prefers direct agency over reflected glory. You do not want to borrow success. You want to create it. Now, let us talk about dopamine, because this explains a huge part of the intensity. The brain is a prediction machine. It is constantly trying to guess what will happen next. The most powerful reward schedule psychologists have ever identified is called intermittent reinforcement. It means rewards arrive unpredictably, not every time, and not on a fixed schedule, but randomly. This is the exact principle behind slot machines and social media scrolling. The uncertainty creates anticipation, and anticipation is what triggers the massive dopamine release. Live sports are built entirely on uncertainty. Every play could change the outcome. Every second carries the possibility of a miracle or disaster. The fan brain is being repeatedly stimulated by suspense. The reward is not just the final score. It is the 3 hours of tension before it. The not knowing is the drug. But if you are a non-fan, that same uncertainty does not activate your reward system in the same way. Your dopamine may respond more intensely to direct challenge and personal effort. This is what the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi called the flow state. It is a moment of total absorption where time seems to disappear. While fans find a version of this through observation, you likely find it through participation. You may feel more alive finishing a demanding project, learning a complex new language, or creating something from nothing. The difference is not a lack of passion. It is a difference in participation. Your brain wants to be in the arena of your own life, not watching from the stands of someone else's. This also connects to a concept known as basking in reflected glory. When a team wins and fans say we are champions, the brain partially absorbs that success as a personal achievement. It is a psychological shortcut to feeling accomplished. And neurologically, it works for them. But if your standards for pride require direct contribution, that shortcut does not satisfy you. You need to do the work to feel the reward. This creates a unique form of emotional stability. Because you do not tie your self-esteem to a team, your confidence does not rise and fall with events you cannot control. It is tied to your own actions, your own growth, and your own reality. Now here is something even more important. Emotional energy is limited. Every person has a finite capacity for deep investment. This is often called empathy allocation. Sports fans allocate a significant portion of that energy to teams, seasons, and rivalries. For them, this shared emotional journey builds community. But if you do not invest in sports, that energy does not simply disappear. It redirects. It flows toward close relationships. It moves toward creative pursuits or intellectual curiosity. It goes toward causes where your involvement changes something tangible. You are not less empathetic than the fans screaming at the TV. You are simply more selective about where your empathy goes. You want your emotional investment to have an impact. There may even be biological influences involved. Research on dopamine receptor variations, specifically genes like DRD4, suggests that some individuals are biologically more responsive to competitive spectacle and rivalry. Others are naturally more responsive to novelty, complexity, and independent exploration. These differences do not create a hierarchy of who is better. They create diversity in how human brains pursue meaning. Some are tuned for the roar of the crowd. Others are tuned for the silence of the study or the focus of the workshop. And now we arrive at the most important piece. The reason this divide can feel so deep and why conversations between fans and non-fans often hit a wall. It comes down to the difference between parasocial investment and direct engagement. Sports fandom is built on parasocial investment. A fan forms a one-sided emotional bond with a team or athlete. They feel loyalty, pride, and grief in response to people who do not know they exist. The emotions are very real, even if the relationship is not reciprocal. The brain accepts the connection because the emotional experience is powerful and communal. But if you struggle to care about sports, it is likely because you have a higher requirement for reciprocity. You prefer engagement where your presence matters. You want to be in a relationship where your effort influences the outcome. You are less satisfied with one-sided emotional contracts. That is why conversations about last night's game can feel empty. When someone asks, "Did you see it?" they are inviting you into a shared symbolic story. But if your brain is wired for agency and mutual exchange, the invitation does not resonate. You do not recognize the symbols, and you do not find nourishment in the narrative. You are not antisocial. You are not disconnected. You simply anchor your meaning differently. In a world where attention is constantly being captured and sold, spectator culture thrives on keeping your emotions attached to events you cannot influence. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry designed to keep you watching. Choosing not to attach is not apathy. It is alignment. Your reward system, your identity structure, and your emotional investments are oriented toward experiences you can shape. There is something quietly radical about refusing to give your heart away to a scoreboard. So the next time you feel like the outsider because you cannot name the teams in the finals, remember this: your brain is not missing the chip. It is calibrated for direct engagement over symbolic affiliation. You are not standing outside the human experience. You are just choosing a different arena, one where you are the lead character, not an observer in the back row. And once you understand that, the question stops being, "Why do I not care?" The question becomes, "What do I choose to care about instead?" Because while they are busy watching the game, you are busy building a life. And in the end, that is the only score that actually matters. If this resonates with you, it is because you value the kind of deep insight that changes how you see yourself. That is why we are here.